Welcome to the Bible 360 podcast. I'm your host, as always, Keyston France, and I have a very special individual with me in the room today. She is the next big thing in country music. Actually, she's already the biggest thing in country music in my eyes. She's performed with some of the biggest artists in the game: Blake Shelton, Diamond Rio, Terry Clark, Rodney Atkins, Sammy Kershaw. Whew! That was like, a few of them? Been all over the country, and she's still doing her thing. But here's the catcher: she loves the Lord, and that's the most important thing. A God-fearing woman, for sure. Give a round of applause for Sydney Lett.
You are the best, Keyston.
No, I'm not. I'm not. That is you.
I keep telling you this. I've been telling you this for 6 years now. One day you'll believe me.
That's 2 against 1 because I know Warren would agree.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he thinks you're the best. He agrees with me.
Oh, my gosh.
Here.
Whatever. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We've been talking about doing this for a little while now, and I've been, I wouldn't say lackadaisical, but I've been dragging some feet a little bit on it, I reckon. So sorry for waiting so long for this day, but thanks for cutting out some time.
Of course.
To do this.
Of course. Yeah. You know I'm here. Always.
Awesome. Well, listen, my favorite song of yours is "To Be Young."
Oh, and I messed up the words the last show. You
No,
asked me to play
you don't have to tell anyone that.
Oh, I have to tell everyone.
Gosh. Okay. So anyway, before we really get into everything about you, I want to know for myself, and maybe even for your fans who loves this song, which I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Just give me a background of that song, "To Be Young." Maybe it's obvious in the title, "To Be Young," but the inspiration behind that.
Yeah, so I wrote that song right before I moved from Nashville to North Carolina, and I was actually in my closet. It was the only place I had good acoustics, and I was just playing that melody line over and over again, and I was like, I looked around at, like, I used to hang out with a lot of the small town kids outside of Nashville that I kind of grew up once I moved there with, and we would all meet at the car wash with our cars.
Wow.
Like, they'd have, like, their lifted trucks, and I had my 66 Mustang, and we'd all pull up and meet in the car wash parking lot or the Sonic, and we'd get our slushies, and we'd go drive back roads, and I looked around, like, 2 days before I moved here, and I was like, I'm going to miss this. Like, I'm really going to miss just, like, being a kid and driving around and drinking a nerd slushie with my boys on the back of my car. Like, it's just, like, that small town mentality, and I knew I was moving here to hopefully open my record label and do some different things. Didn't know if I was going to stay in music or really what I was going to do, but I knew I wanted to remember just being young and with my hand out the window, flying down back roads in Nashville, and just being with people you love and making memories. So that's kind of what that song's about. Wow,
and maybe that's why I'm sorry. You have a lot of amazing songs. You have some great music out. To Be Young. Like, I hear you talking about, like, how you missed some of those moments and those days. With me growing up, I was the only child, so I didn't have a brother or sister, but I had neighbors. God blessed me to have neighbors and church friends. They would come over and we would, ride go-karts, four-wheelers, and jumping hills and stuff. We had our own little go-kart trail cut out in the back of the woods, and, play water guns or shoot some hoop or toss the football, whatever it may be, play wiffle ball or something like that. I just think about it now. I'm like, wow, we're all grown up and doing our own thing. I try my best to stay connected with them, but
it's hard though when we're adults and we're moving on with our lives, and we're like, it's crazy. Like, one day you're out driving back roads, and the next you're like, crap, why is everything so expensive? I have to grocery shop for myself now.
Bills.
Mortgage payments.
Oh my gosh, rent's due.
It's
To
exhausting.
Be Young.
Yes,
Wow.
I miss being young. I think you have to. It was cool. I sang that song at the Grand Ole Opry's kind of cowboy church they do at the Texas Troubadour Theater. And Joanne Cash, Johnny's younger sister, is a good friend of mine. She's family. And I saw her out, like, singing along to it when I was singing it. And she'd turned 84 that year, and she's singing it. And you could tell, like, she was thinking about, like, the memories that she had made in her life. And she told me, she's like, I love that song. Like, it reminds me of being a kid. And it's cool to see, like, that's why I write songs like that, is to bring that back for no matter how old you are. Like, we should all stay young and stay in that mentality, because life's too short not to. You have to.
Most certainly, and your music has to be relatable.
It does.
We're both musicians.
Yes.
Right? I'm a drummer. You're a guitar player. So
and we met at a racetrack. I love that.
We certainly did. Oh my gosh. But on that side of the spectrum, I can kind of understand, like, the importance of playing music and writing music that can be so relatable.
It
right?
is.
And that's not the only song, like I mentioned, but that one really stood out to me out of just about everything so far that I've listened to of yours. that I could find.
I'll send you some new stuff.
You have so much stuff. Like, I haven't gotten through everything, but I really love that song, and I can relate to it. No problem. But individuals who may not know who Sydney Lett is, tell them.
I think I'm still asking myself that every day.
Well, what have you came up with so far? Like, what you got?
Gosh, let me look. No, so I grew up in Iowa in a small town. I grew up barrel racing. I had a horse growing up. I grew up with a lot of health issues. I have a heart condition, so going to school was not like the easiest thing for me.
I'm sorry, Sydney, to interrupt you. Where in Iowa? How do you pronounce? Is it Des Moines?
Des Moines, Des Moines. So that's the capital city. That's where my grandma's house was. I lived in Winterset, Iowa, for a while, Madison County. So like Bridges in Madison County, the movie was like based out of where I used to live. John Wayne's hometown is my hometown, so that's kind of cool. So there's not a lot in Iowa other than corn and like amazing people. So I miss it. I miss it a lot. But I grew up there, and I always knew I wanted to do music. I had my grandpa, rest his soul, he passed away a year ago in June. He was the reason I got into country music, but he cut me out a circle of wood in our backyard so I could pretend I was playing the Opry. And I'd go out there and stand in that circle in the among his potato plants and his tomatoes and marigolds and pretend I was on a big stage in Nashville. And as like a sick little girl with a heart problem in Iowa, I didn't really think that I would get past that enough to make it to Nashville or even be able to do music on a big scale. But I was sick until I was in 6th grade, and I really started getting into guitar lessons. And Kim Jackson was my guitar teacher back home. Love that man so much. It didn't matter if I had one lesson and was sick for 4 months and couldn't make it. We'd pick up right where we left off, and he'd keep kind of pushing that and encouraging me that I could do it even when I was sick. And when I really started playing music, I got a lot better, and I wasn't sick all the time. And we started kind of finding answers as to why I was in that situation. And I started writing songs about everything. I would go out and sing them to my horse because I was too afraid to sing them to anyone else. And I realized, like, I just had this voice in my head that I know is God, this is your job, is to write songs and impact people with this. Doesn't matter that you don't have a lot of friends right now. It does not matter that you're sick. Like, these are all things you're going to overcome, but you have to use music to do that. And so it was hard to really stay strong to that and believe that I could do that, but I'm so glad that I did. It was the best decision I ever made, was sticking with it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And yes, you are doing an amazing job of touching folks all over the world, including myself.
Aw.
And
you're my best friend. You're supposed to say that.
Okay, Sydney. Anyway, you may have mentioned this, and I know you talked about your sickness, your illness a little bit, and how that's tied into music and the inspiration with that. Yeah. Why the guitar, though? Because, and I'm a drummer. Yep. I also play the trombone a little bit.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. You're going to have to play that for me now.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, my Yamaha. I got you. It's sitting in my room collecting dust. So
I love it.
I haven't played it since the 8th grade, but I'll whip something up for you one of these days.
You better.
But I asked why the guitar because with me, I actually started playing the guitar. Really? I have early pictures of me as like a 5-year-old playing the guitar, but I saw my cousin play the drums, and that day that I saw him play the drums, it was just a connection there. Something spiritually happened, an interaction which you could understand. Yeah. And ever since then, I was picking up drumsticks and beating on pans, pots, pans.
Anything you could.
Until my mom and dad got me a little drum set, and the rest is history. Why the guitar?
Well, so it's a funny story, actually. So my grandpa had an old acoustic guitar that used to sit in like his little loft area in his house. And for years, like, he would just kind of strum on it in his shop. I'd be out helping him work on the cars, and I was my grandpa's best friend. I was with him all the time. And he would always be strumming on the guitar. Well, I carried that guitar around as a little kid just because I watched my grandpa play it. And so I thought my grandpa was Johnny Cash. Like, my grandpa would sing to me and play this guitar. Wow. Well, I didn't know until about 4 years ago that my grandpa never actually knew how to play it. He had the guitar he'd bought somewhere. I don't know where he got it. And he's like, kid, because I said, Grandpa, like, I'm so glad that you played guitar, and, that's how I was inspired to play it. And he just shook his head. And he's like, man, he's like, I got to tell you, I don't know how to play guitar. He's like, when you were a little kid, I just strummed it and sang, and you were so, like, enamored with watching it. He's like, I didn't know. I didn't even think I was singing the right words. He's like, I was just trying to make you laugh and make you happy. And, God, I miss him so much. But, so watching him play, I took that old guitar, I think I was 8 or 9. We took it to a guitar store, and the guy was like, this thing is cheap and old, and, like, there's no way we can fix it. He's like, but we have this little guitar over here that's the same size. And my mom, she's like, well, we don't have a ton of money. And the guy was like, well, I'll give it to you for $100. Take it home. And so that was my little mini guitar that I started out on. And I tried still to play my grandpa's, but it was too far gone. It's a prop. It still sits at their house now. But so I got that little guitar, and I think I just turned 10 when I really started trying to learn how to play it.
Wow.
And I tried so hard. My fingers would bleed, and I just kept like, I can't do it. Like, this is too hard. And I had a talent show I was supposed to sing at in our hometown. And my guitar player had recorded like a backing track for it because he's like, you're not comfortable playing it yet. Yeah. So I'll play it and you can just sing to it. Well, me being me, I'm a barrel racer at heart, okay? So I'm a little spicy when I have to be.
Yeah.
So it was back in the era of CDs, right? So they put the CD in, and the girl picked it up when I was singing. She picked it up and set it down on the asphalt, and so it skipped.
Oh, no.
And little 10-year-old Sydney was like, oh, that's never going to happen again. So I didn't win. I was heartbroken. I was like, man, I would have won if she hadn't done messed me up. Like, I'm upset. So I had 2 weeks till the next little talent show, and if I won the next one, I could sing at our state fair. So I went home, and I figured out how to play that song. I played till I literally had Hello Kitty Band-Aids on all my fingers because they bleed so much. And I played that song. I went to the next one. I won it, and I got to sing at our state fair. And after that, I was like, if I know I want to do something, and I pray hard about it, and I know that I don't give up on it, I can do it. And in that moment, that was the first time as a kid, I was like, you know what? Like, if I work hard, and I know that this is something I want, that I can do it. God's going to bless it. It wouldn't be in my heart if there wasn't a reason for it. And so guitar just kind of became like I tell everyone it's my other appendage. Like, I feel so like even right now, like without having like it sitting in my lap, you know? But so guitar's always I picked up mandolin after that. I play a little bit of piano. I'm learning dobro. I love dobro. Right. Just got a banjo. So I'm trying to learn everything I can.
Oh, Rocky Top will always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Sydney. Oh my gosh.
I love it.
We have to record that.
We do.
Whenever I think about a banjo, that's so.
Like, dan, right into the.
Oh my gosh. So, I hate to get off topic, but I don't give a flip. Tennessee is one of my favorite football teams, like college football teams, right? Yeah. I love Florida State, Seminoles, but Tennessee has always been like, for some reason, like even when I was like 8, it was just that theme song.
Rocky Top.
Like, because they play, that's their marching song. Like the marching band plays that every time they score a touchdown. I just never, I never understood why that old.
It makes your soul happy.
Yeah, and I was like, I like Florida State, but Tennessee.
Rocky Top.
Oh my gosh, I should have applied there, but to go to school. But anyway,
it's never too late. You could always go back.
Oh my goodness, we played them in tennis, and just being on that campus, it was like, oh my gosh, this is Rocky Top. This is Tennessee.
It's the greatest song. It makes me miss Tennessee. I miss living there sometimes. I'll never leave North Carolina, but I do miss Tennessee.
That's the theme song for the state, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, it's always, I loved hearing that tune, and then when I learned the actual, like it was the actual song and the lyrics to it, and
old school country.
I have that YouTube video saved on my phone. Oh my gosh, I love that song.
Dolly's version. You have to listen to Dolly's version. It is superior.
I'm sorry, Dolly, if you listen to this, but I haven't heard your version.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, but we just really sung together. I cannot believe that. Flip. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Too long.
I'm freaking out, Warren. If you listen to this, I'm freaking out, man. I'm probably gonna tell you this Sunday. Anyway.
He sings with me all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Maybe not the right words, but he tries really hard.
Oh my goodness. And I kept up with you. I'm so, all right, I'm done.
Oh, that was beautiful.
I'm so done. I'm so
proud.
done. What were you talking about? Gosh. Oh, I wanted to say this. I love that story of how you had that experience with the CD.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave you like I want to say you had that hunger at a young age, but it made you, it just, I guess for a loss of a better term, it made you better, I reckon.
100%.
And I was listening to a sermon, and the pastor said something along the lines of, sometimes God takes us through trials just to prove to us what he has put in us.
Exactly.
Right?
That is so sense.
True. Gosh, I hope I didn't. But anyway, so it's like, because sometimes we don't really believe in ourselves always. Like even before I left Gymnasium, I was released. I always wanted to become a part of Team Penske. I always wanted to become a part of something big, wanted to be on a house car, quote unquote, whatever. Yeah. I just never saw myself outside of that team. I never saw myself at a Joe Gibbs, even working with a Jack Roush or at freaking Team Penske, right? Or Hendricks.
Amazing.
Didn't believe in myself enough. Yeah. And so he had to shake my nest so I could open those, spread those wings like an eagle. And he was like, with me, you can do all things.
Exactly.
Right? Philippians 4:13. So it took a little bit of that trial, getting fired, getting suspended, so on and so forth, for him to prove to me that, hey, if you allow me to live within you, like, you can do anything. And that's what I do. So, gosh, man, that's amazing. It's just confirmation of that word. The word confirms all the time.
It does. So we just have to be vulnerable enough to let ourselves believe that and remember who we're made by and why we're here.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So anyway, NASCAR. How the flip did you get into NASCAR? Like what was your first exposure to NASCAR? Like how in the world? I could tell you the first NASCAR race I ever witnessed was unfortunately the one Dale Sr. was killed in.
No, was it really?
Mm-hmm. We were driving. So we were driving, my parents and I, we were driving from Martinsville, and my dad's from Martinsville, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
So that's part of the reason why I'm a huge NASCAR fan, thanks to him. And my grandfather, he remembered when the Wood brothers came to be.
Oh, wow.
And so when I first came to Team Penske and was pitting on the 21, like that was his all-time favorite car. And, I mean, he passed in 2011, but that had, like, it meant something to me to actually be the front changer on the 21. No offense to any of the other cars, but it was more pressure on the 21 than the 2. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the car. And like meeting the Wood brothers and having a relationship with them now, it's like, wow, like my grandfather, he's looking down. And
he was like, hey, Jesus, we got to make this happen for the kid, all right?
Oh my goodness. Like, I was like, O-M to the mother flipping G.
That's amazing.
But anyway, they're from the Martinsville area. And we were driving from Martinsville, coming from, I think it was a family function or something of that nature. And we were listening to it on the radio. Well, we were watching it on TV when it happened, and we hadn't heard anything yet. Wow. But that was the earliest memory of me watching NASCAR. And then we turned on the radio, and once we got home, which was about 3 hours away, near Richmond, Virginia, that's when obviously the news came out. Wow. But that was my first recollection of anything dealing with motorsports and NASCAR, and a wild way of getting into it, but that's from the rest is history. But anyway, enough of me. How did you get into NASCAR? Like what
So I grew up singing at the Iowa Speedway. I sang at my first race there when I was 11, I think. I sang in a truck race. Yeah, I was 11 or 12. It's still, if you dig far enough on YouTube, you can find it. It's still like when Speed Channel was still a thing, and Michael Waltrip was announcing it, and it's so funny. Like, just getting like I went there, and so like this is kind of funny, but they were filming a movie with Zac Efron and Dennis Quaid out there. It's called At Any Price. It was like a racing movie. It's a good movie. It's indie film, really good movie.
I love my indie films.
It was great. Like, just a really good movie. I should have made it a lot farther. Yeah. But Zac Efron, man. So I was like 11 years old, right? I'm seeing Troy Bolton, like High School Musical. Like I gotta meet Zac Efron. So I'm chasing Zac Efron around. Well, I met a lot of drivers, the next year, and I don't remember this because I wasn't really into meeting anyone. I liked NASCAR. My cousin, he passed away, Randy, got us into NASCAR. So I would go over to his house, and my mom and grandma would be cooking in the kitchen, and I'd be watching NASCAR with him. Right. And so I always loved racing. I always wanted to race. Grew up going to Knoxville and watching sprint cars, and I've always loved racing. Always loved fast cars. Yeah, I wanted to be a race car driver. Unfortunately, I don't have the coordination for that, or really any other talent to be able to do that. But always something that I wanted to do. And so I kept getting asked to sing at Iowa Speedway every year after that. So I'd go, I think, every year until I moved to Nashville. And so I got to meet, Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney and a lot of these kids, Eric Jones, Bubba, a lot of those guys when we were all younger. And so I just made so many friends through the sport at a really young age that I knew every summer. Like, I knew I didn't have friends in Nashville yet. Didn't really have a ton of friends in Iowa. I had my core little group. But I didn't have any friends that really understood what it was like to be in a bigger life and travel every weekend. And they were doing something big, too. And so I got to watch Chase win his first race at Iowa. That was his first win ever. And so I got to talk to him after the race. We kind of got to be friends and, like, just watching like, hey, like these guys are my age and they're also trying to do something big with their life, and like they understand how it's, I'm not going to be home, I'm not going to make it to prom, like I'm not going to be able to do these things. And so I knew every summer I'd get to sing it probably 2 or 3 races at the Speedway, and I'd get to see all my buddies again. And so like it just became this thing where racing became my second family. And so I moved to Nashville and, didn't see everyone a lot. And a couple times I had buddies from NASCAR come out to Nashville when I was out there. And so I was in a record deal for a little while in Nashville, and a little bit about that, but it was just not the situation I wanted to be in. And so when I had the opportunity to get out of that, it was a very, very random situation. I had a friend that was like, hey, like, why don't you just move to North Carolina? Like, you're not happy where you're at. Like, racing's your family. Like, you don't have to stay in music. You could work at marketing for a race team, or you could find something else that could make you happy and then come back to it maybe if you're, take a break, find yourself. And I impulse moved here. I think 3 months later, I was renting a house in Nashville, and I was like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to live here anymore. Yeah. My friends, my family, that's North Carolina. That's my racing buddies. Like, so I up and moved here, and it's the best thing I ever did. Racing's my family. I think I love Nashville. There's a lot of people there that I still love, but NASCAR's my home. That's my family. I think I'm the only kid that's, like, not a driver or related to a driver that just kind of got, like, I don't work for a team. I'm not really, but I'm just there. Maybe I'll own a team one day. That'd be cool.
One day. That's a piece of my dream too. If I can get the capital.
Co-owners, we got this. Sponsors, we got this.
Yeah.
We're personable. We go out and just plead our case.
Warren to be the president.
Yes, he'll build our cars. He already knows. He's like, babe, we're not owning a race team unless we have billions of dollars in the bank. I'm like,
it takes a lot.
It does.
It does, especially if you want to compete in that.
Exactly.
But anyway, you kind of flop my questions here, Sydney. But I love it though. No. It's fine. I wanted to get to the Nashville situation. Yeah. Obviously, you have history in Nashville. 2014, you moved there.
I did. Yeah.
Would you consider that a turning point in your career, or like? Because now you mentioned something about not wanting to be with whatever label you signed with. You don't have to mention them on here. I won't put shame to them, but I just want you to talk a little bit about, what you didn't like about that, or what turned you away from being signed. Because that's as a musician, that's like the biggest thing. Even as a drummer or something, being signed to even a label, doing that, because obviously I could just be an artist myself as a drummer or a guitar player, whatever. You see it all the time. Yeah. But just take me through that, because again, that's the dream of most of us musicians, is to be signed. And again, it's not a bad dream to have, right? Not, but being connected with the right people in the industry is important. Right, and I'll say have worked in gospel music and being close to a lot of representatives that run labels and stuff. A lot of them, they don't love the Lord. They're there for the business.
Exactly.
And that's not good.
It's not. That's not why music's here. I feel like music is a gift that God gave us to be able to not feel alone. Moving to Nashville was definitely a turning point in a lot of good ways, but also a lot of bad. I was 15, 16 years old, and wow. One of the first meetings that I went into with my heart condition, I've been on, different medications that, I'll gain 5 pounds, then I'll lose 15. And like, I'm just all over the place. I'm a young woman. Like, that's a normal thing that happens, even if you don't have a heart condition. Right. So I went into a first meeting with the label, and they were like, we like your music and everything, but, we think it'd be better if you dyed your hair black, and, we really need you to weigh around 90 pounds. Like, we need you to lose 30 pounds. And they took me out to a really nice fancy steakhouse to tell me that I was too fat for people to like my music. And I've never considered myself to ever have been, judged on my music and my ability by that. And I didn't feel like I could be myself in that setting at all. And I also don't think that there is a box that you should be put in as a creator, like, oh, you have to wear this kind of dress, and it didn't feel right. And I stayed in that situation for a little bit, and I just kept looking around at myself, and I was like, this isn't it. This is not what I want. I know that, like, God called me to write music. God called me to impact people by being vulnerable and sharing my story and sharing the things that hurt, because those are the real things that people are going to relate to. And I was constantly told, well, we need you to write up-tempo songs that aren't about your life, that are commercial, radio. It can't be over 3 minutes and 5 seconds, because that's not what sells. And I remember I asked one of my favorite writers that I had gotten to write with, that I don't meet all your heroes. I'll tell you that. some disappointing things in sometimes when that happens. And I just remember being told, leave your past and your stories and what you've been through at the door. We're not writing a song about your life. We're writing a song that is going to be on the radio. And I just looked at myself and I looked at these people that were trying so hard to be something. They didn't look at who they were. They didn't look in the mirror or at their own heart long enough to think, okay, I have this gift. God gave me this gift for a reason. How am I using this? How am I using this to make the world better? How am I using this to impact people? How am I using this to make the world a little bit better and a little bit easier while we're all walking each other home, right? And I couldn't stay in that situation. And I walked away from a deal that would have been a lot of money and a lot of fame and a lot of things that people think are important in this world. And they have their place. Fame's going to come with a career if you're doing well at it. But that's not why you should strive for something. And so I walked away from it, and I'm actually in the process of opening my own record label because I think that a label should be somewhere that you're safe. I feel like as a 13-year-old little girl, I look at my 13-year-old self and I couldn't say, skip dinner, dye your hair, and don't talk about yourself and what you've been through because people might think you're crazy or they might judge you for that, or you can't open up too much. And I want to make sure when 13-year-old Sydney walks through the doors at my label that she knows she's safe and she knows that she can create what God's called her to create without being judged for it and without being told that it's wrong. So
yeah, and in the gospel industry, a lot of artists are convinced to make music that will, again, we want to reach everyone.
Exactly.
But it's a difference between gospel music and R&B or rap music.
Yeah.
And I've heard some conversations from artists, certain artists like Jacqueline Carr, Jonathan McReynolds, or Ty Tribbett or Travis Green, who I'm very good friends with, talk about how they've had to reject a lot of opportunities because a lot of these industry heads or guys who ran these labels wanted them to sound like Lil Wayne or sound like, worldly artists and worldly things, and that
you should sound like you and your heart and what God wants for you.
That, and then on top of that, we're trying to save souls here.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously it's a business, and God will bless us for doing His work and serving Him. He'll put some money in our pocket.
Exactly.
A lot of money.
Yep. Exactly.
If He sees fit, but that doesn't mean selling your soul to the devil.
No.
Right.
Doesn't.
And wow, I mean. Thanks for answering the question, because you just validated some things that I've seen being in the industry just a little bit, and from what I've heard, and that sucks. We just talked about how your music is so relatable. How can you be relatable when you're not you? Like when you're going to these concerts, or when I'm talking to Sydney, when the people you met here today had never seen you, but when they got to actually meet you, they were like, wow, this confirms what we saw on the TV, on the website, what we heard, right? And if you're someone else, when people actually meet you, when they see you in concert, that it's a goodness grief, thing. You'll make some money because they'll pay to see you, but then they'll be very disappointed, like you've mentioned before. Sometimes never meet your heroes, which I hate that.
I've been in that situation. Unfortunately, getting to open recently for a couple of my heroes in the last few years, and I've just not always the best, but all you can do with that is take that, and God willing, I'll end up, I want to sell stadiums out one day so I can love on 75,000 people at one time. That's my ultimate goal, is to be able to love that many people at the same time and make them feel heard. And all I can do is take that experience and not be that. When 25-year-old Sydney walks in and is opening for me 20 years down the road, I want to love her and show her that, like, here's the mistakes that I've made. And I will say, shout out to my adopted big sis, Stephanie Quayle, who is one of my heroes. She was on the cover of Cowgirl magazine, and I followed her for a while, and I was like, I want to know her. Like, she is, like, killing it. I just want to be her when I grow up. Like, I just want to be able to be that real, and I loved her. So I randomly sent her a message on Instagram, and her and I have gotten to be really good friends now, and she is so willing to help me and give me advice and listen to songs and be my biggest cheerleader. And as women in this industry, that is what needs to be the common thing. Right. And I was in situations where I was talked down to and treated very badly by people that I looked up to a lot in the industry, and my show went really well, the shows that I got to play with those people, and all I could take from that was don't be that one day. Be somebody be like Stephanie, be like Dolly, be like Loretta, these people that were so eager to pass what they learned on to the next generation, that aren't threatened by it, that aren't, scared of, passing on what they know to somebody else. There's a vulnerability in saying, hey, I made these mistakes and I love you and I don't want you to make those. So I'm going to be vulnerable and honest with what I've, slipped up on or what I've been shown in this industry to make sure that you aren't in that situation. I feel like you just have to just love people. Like, that's what it comes down to. You just got to love people.
It's very important when, sounds crazy, when I was aspiring to change tires for a living as a younger man. Guys like Kenyatta Houston, Richie Williams, some of, I call them legends on pit road. Yeah. When I would come to the track and have my little pit pass and I had questions or I wanted to, hey, can I have an autograph? Or wanted to hang around them and watch them. They took me in, right? Yeah, exactly. And it made me feel like, wow, I mean, this, it made me feel good about what my dream was. Exactly. And like this, there are nice people in here doing this. And it just, again, it made you feel good, right? Yeah. It allowed me to continue pressing on, like even when it got rough and tough or whatever, or I didn't feel like I could afford to stay in North Carolina to even do this thing, right? I remembered those guys and what they told me and the things they taught me and some of the stuff that they did and some of the things they told me not to do, the do's and the don'ts, right? Like you were mentioning, and it just, to this day, I thank them every time I see them, and I've actually gotten to pit with them in a live race, and it's like, oh my gosh, like my this heroes, guy, right? My heroes, so obviously we're not idolizing them, but it's like we grow up watching them. I watch Kenya, I watch Richie, they watch them win races and stuff like that. Like my rear changer, Steven Talges, man, he chuckles every time, but he's been in the industry for about 20 years or so, close to it. But I've watched him win Daytona 500s and stuff like that. And now he's my rear changer, and I get to work with him. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm a fan of you, actually. And like Tanner Andrews, who won the championship with Joy last year. I watched him at Hendricks for so many years and on the 48. And it's like, man, and they don't believe me. They're like, man, shut up. Not really. It's like,
they're
dude.
humble. They have good hearts.
And it's great. And it's like, man, I watch you and like, you're my teammate now. I mean, I'm going to kick your butt today in practice, but you're my teammate now. Steven Talges, you're my teammate. Even I call him AC, Austin Cindric, watching him win the Xfinity Championship, or growing up watching Joey and some of his controversial dealings and fights and stuff, and now and Ryan, and I mean the list goes on. Junior, I'm a Junior fan, guys. Junior Nation, baby, and I've gotten to work with them just a little bit. Like I've been in the company of them, and it's like, oh my gosh, really? And
people, I mean, with good hearts, and that's, when you realize that they're just humans like you chasing a dream, it makes it a lot less scary when you meet people that you look up to, that you are like, wow, you're a great person and you're willing to share your experience with me and help me also be on the level that you're at. That's I feel like there's so many great people. We only hear about the bad ones because that's the experiences that it's easy to want to talk about, but there's so many good people that are willing to be let me love on you and help you. Like Jeff Hammond is one of my favorite humans in the world, and he's kind of helping. He won't say he's my manager, so he's not my manager, but we meet for breakfast twice a week, right?
Wow.
And he's helped me. I mean, this man is literally laid on the ground while I had a horse colic and died in my arms, and was there to help me with that side of my horse rescue and that side of life. And he's a legend. This man is a legend, and he has fought so hard. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like Jeff Hammond. Like we went to so one of my good friends / producers, Danny Rader, plays for Kenny Chesney. And I get to go on the road and kind of hang out with them when they're around. So I asked Jeff, I was like, hey, you want to come see Kenny Chesney and meet the band and come hang out with everybody? And I'm sponsored by Harrison's in Mooresville, Western Wear Company, and they set us up with outfits. They outfitted Kenny's band, which was unreal. And Jeff's like, yeah, I'll come to a concert. That'd be fun. So Jeff let me wear his tied jacket that says Hammond on it so super cool. So I'm freaking out. So I always fangirl, and he's like, Sydney, shut up. Stop it. Just leave me. Let's stop it. Just knock it off. And so we go to the show, and this guy walks up, one of Kenny's Blue Chair Bay rum reps. He walks up, and he's like, oh my gosh, your jacket. I'm a Dear Waltrip fan. Oh, I love Jeff Hammond. That's so cool. And I was like, Jeff Hammond's right behind me. He's like, Jeff Hammond? He turns around. He's like, oh my gosh, it's Jeff Hammond. He's freaking out. We're backstage at Kenny Chesney, and Jeff's like mixing a drink, and he turns around. He's like, oh, hey, like, what's up? Totally humble. Like, he's just like, yeah, you know, whatever. I work in racing, you know, not a big deal. And these people are just like, well, you're just a great guy. Like, and it's so cool to watch that situation happen and know that, like, Jeff, he'll fight for you on the racetrack. He will fight for you. He's fighting for my music career, but he also came to my house at 6 a.m. when I'm hair up in a bun in my PJs trying to save a horse, and he's in the mud on the ground with me trying to help this horse. And it's like getting to see people that are amazing, that have had amazingly successful careers, also be amazing humans that are willing to fight for you in all aspects is life-changing, and it shows you that there is truly more good than bad.
It is, and God puts those people in our place in our lives to show us how we need to carry on the torch as well. Because again, now looking at us, you know, you're full throttle, no pun intended, because we're in a race shot right now. That's where we're recording this.
Hashtag Team Penske. Thanks for the body armors, guys.
Of course, shout out body armor.
Shout out body armor.
Ryan Blaney, hashtag.
Love you,
anyway,
Ryan.
but now that we're in our career fields, full time, rocking this thing, full throttle, right? Now we watched them, we've met them, our heroes, at least some of them. Yeah. They've shown us how we should go about in life. Like when I go to the track, and every so often a pit crew guy will get autographed or ask for autograph or a picture or something like that, or a kid comes up and is inspired, right? We know how to respond in that situation, right? Don't be like a jerk. Now I understand sometimes like it can be like,
it's hectic.
It can be. And I'm not against any driver that's like, no, like a cow push or like or whatever. Because it can be like, especially like after a race or whatever, but every time I try to, even after, I remember after Daytona, it wasn't in the race, nothing bad happened in the race, but I had lost something at the track because we were rushing and I couldn't find like my phone or my book bag or whatever, helmet, I thought it was stolen. And I was just like, I was so flustered. But then there were some guys that was like, hey man, are you one of the pit crew guys like on the 2-car and blah, blah, blah. Can we have a picture? And in my mind, I was like,
God was using that to show you why you were there.
Not right now. Like, no, my team's waiting on me. Like, I'm just flustered. But I said, wait a minute. At one point, I was that kid, you know, and Carl Edwards, you know, even though he had that bad race in Richmond, he stopped and gave me an autograph, took a picture with me or whatever.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I could tell. I never met him. Would love to, like, actually, like, personally meet him. But anyway, I'm like, let me be a Carl Edwards, or let me just be Christ-like. Let me just say that. I'm not going to put any human on a pedestal, but just be Christ-like, right? Just say, okay, forget about it. And, you know, when I went over there, took the picture, everything like that, you know, when a kid comes up to me and wants me to sign something or take a picture with him, or, you know, a fan comes up and wants to just talk about racing, how did I get into it, not being a jerk or whatever. Because I've ran into some pit crew guys that were just, you know, just bad energy, right? And it left the bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, well, gosh, man, I don't want to actually end up in the industry one day and have to deal with you.
Well, don't be the person that, like, if somebody comes up and like, wow, I need advice, you know, you meet a fan, like, you might be the first person that they've ever been brave enough to approach to chase their dream. Exactly. And if you're the person that's like, I'm sorry, I don't have time for you, that could be the difference between whether or not they have the courage to chase their dream and whether their life has changed and they're chasing God's calling for them, or they give up and they settle for less. Especially, you have to always put yourself in, like, remember, like, that could be the moment they literally gained up all their courage to ask you that question. You have to always remember that. I try to always humble myself and remember that. Exactly.
And especially if you're a believer of Jesus Christ, you're a follower, and you claim to be a Christian or whatever, or at least just have a relationship with God, you know, we're working 24/7.
Yes.
Right.
Always.
To show the face of him. And, you know, through like my post on Facebook and this podcast, people have come up to me at the track and it's like, man, we love how you're ministering God's your word, and you putting it out there, and you're brave and you're enough to do it, and it's just thank you. You know, we're always working for him. You know, whether I'm hitting lug nuts on the track, I'm hitting them for Christ. Whether you're strumming that guitar, singing, you're doing it for him, right? Because this is our ministry.
This is what we're here
our
for.
Work is our ministry, and you know, even God has had to deal with me recently. Like, you know, if I have a bad practice, usually I have it on my face. I'm just one of those people, and you know, I'll take it into the gym session and slamming weights or something like that. I hate to admit it, but that has been human. Me. And Christ has had to kind of, when I was suspended again,
Yep.
Okay.
I know.
You know,
You called me.
which sucked, and I wanted to cry, but it was a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And God had to pull me back and show me that I'm doing it too much for the trying to please man. And this is for me, and this is your ministry. You know, you're supposed to be showcasing Christ-like life, right? And when you're going into the gym after a bad practice, slamming weights, you're creating a bad energy. You may not realize that, but then that can spread, right? Bad, good or bad practice, right? People are watching you, especially when you label yourself with my name, God. Yeah. Right? They're going, oh, well, how's Keeson going to react? He does the podcast. He talks about, you know, forgiveness and blah, blah, blah. He had this amazing interview with Sydney and this, that, and the third. How's he going to react when he has a bad practice, a bad race? Right?
And they're always watching. They're always wanting to disprove you.
Right. Or not just that, but if they're new into this whole following Jesus Christ, they're trying to they need someone to model after a little bit.
They want to validate that that's the lifestyle, and that's how to be Christ-like.
Exactly. And so he had to really pull me back for 2 weeks because I wanted to do the All-Star race. That's 2 All-Star races I've missed. Because
you got it next year.
Because
You're
of
gonna
that,
have it next year.
We're gonna claim it.
Well, I wasn't at the last 2, so I'll be at the next one, and then I'll be your good luck
doing
charm.
the national anthem.
I hope.
Again,
awesome.
Goodness grief, thanks, Cindy. But you know, that was a race that showcases pit crew guys.
Yeah.
And obviously, I always wanted to do the All-Star race. Exactly. But he was like, before I send you to the All-Star race, we need to get your whole deal in order, right? Remember who you're doing this for. And that's what's kept my attitude together. Yeah. Good or bad days, whether it's bad on the track. Like last weekend wasn't our best overall as a whole unit. And it was just like one of those times, but it's like, it's okay, God. You got this. I'm doing it for you either way. You have the glory.
Exactly.
I wanted to mention when you talked about how they wanted you to have a certain image and things like that. It was this lady in the film industry, and I wish I should have put her name up. I didn't know we were going to go down this road, but it's okay. I'll pull it up later. May put it in the description of this interview, whatever. But the film industry is the same way. Yeah. I mean, as an actor or actress, they want you to sometimes look a certain way and do certain things that I can't talk about on this show or in public. But you know, and they were like, "Yeah, you're too big, right?" Or, "Yeah, I don't think you were fat, Sydney." But like she was kind of husky, not like huge, but even then, like they were like, "No, you would never make it, right?" And no one wanted to take a chance with her, sponsor her, do whatever. Right. No studios wanted to take her up and give her any deals, and she took all of that, right? Prayed about it, and she made a movie of her own out of it. Wow. And it is doing very well as far as I know. Amazing. But the bounce back, right? Again, keeping God first, you know, you'll be able to bounce back. You'll be able to, I mean, it's given. But anyway, I just thought about that because that's recent.
Wow, I'm going to have to watch that. I love that.
I'll research that because my mom told me about it. But anyway.
That's amazing.
Anyway, let me shift to this here. I'll back up a couple of years. 2012, you wrote a song, Angels Still Cry.
Oh, gosh.
Right.
Right in the gut.
Talk me through that. And I know that was a trying time in American history. I want to say, what was that about the Columbine or
Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook. Okay, get me straight here, Sydney. But anyway, so yeah, talk about that.
Wow. It was a crazy experience. So I've always had an ability, this is crazy, but I've always had this ability where I just, like, I feel things really, really strongly, and I sometimes relate to things and get feelings about things that I can't explain other than I know that it's God working through me somehow. And I watched the news story, I think I was 16, and I remember my good friend, Sam, committed suicide that year, April 23rd, always a day that sticks out, but the shooting happened on his birthday. It was December 14th, I believe. And there was just something that stuck with me about hearing about it on the news. It just made me sick. And I kept seeing this little blonde girl in my head on a swing set. And I don't know why I kept seeing that. Like, I'd close my eyes at night and I couldn't stop thinking about the shooting and the kids, the families. And I just kept seeing this little girl. And they hadn't released any victims' faces or names or anything yet. And I told my mom about this. I'm like, Mom, I think I'm going crazy, but I feel very called. Like, I feel like God's telling me to write something about it. And I wrote the song. And I just kept seeing this little girl's face in my head. It was the weirdest thing. The news had broken the victims' faces and their pictures and everything the next day. And I hear my mom go, "Oh my gosh!" And she's like, "Sydney, come here! Like, you gotta come here, look at the TV." And I came running out of my bedroom, and there's a picture of Emily Parker, the little girl that had passed away, little blonde girl on a swing set. Mm-hmm. And I just I felt like my heart stopped for a minute. And my mom was like, "I know you wrote the song. Like, we need to send it to them, or like." I was like, I just want them to be able to use it in any capacity to help raise money for the families or whatever I can do. I was called to write it, and I don't want to waste it. Like, I feel like I need to do something with it. And so my mom sent it to Sandy Hook Promise, who ended up including it on a compilation CD that raised money for the families. And I got to go to Connecticut and play for the families, which was, at 16 years old, the most surreal experience, driving up and driving past the school that still had caution tape around it. It was the next August, and getting to hug some of the families of the kids and just be there and perform that song. And just, you don't think of those things as being real until you see it. Like, you see it on the news and you're heartbroken and you pray for the families, but until you're in that setting and you're with the families and you're seeing the school that's still locked down and the door's broken, and you know what awful things the devil was doing there, and witnessing it, it's insane that at 16 years old I faced that. But it was a very big honor to be able to be there and love on those families. And that song still makes me cry. I can't listen to it. And people listen to it, like, they'll put a Spotify playlist up and it'll come on. I'm like, nope. Gotta skip it. I can't listen to it.
I just love how when we allow God to work in our lives, the type of work he does.
Exactly.
And
when we're brave enough and vulnerable enough to be that vessel, it's truly amazing.
That's a word right there that I needed. And so thank you for that, Sydney. And as my mom always would tell me, when I would do something good or nice, whatever, God added a star to your crown just for that. And he gave you that vision. And so, and again, like, you going through with it, from the dream to writing the song. I mean, even if you weren't, you weren't aware of, like, this is what he had planned for you, like, just going through with that, that's good, right? Because when he told me to start this whole podcasting journey, do this whole deal, I didn't want to do it. I'm kind of a shy guy, I don't, even though we're not talking in front of an audience or we're live,
it's still nerve-wracking.
I just, and I never really liked my voice too much. And I was like, God, I don't want the whole world to hear this voice or whatever.
You have a radio voice. You're owning it.
What? Are you serious?
I think you do. You do.
Oh, goodness grief. Everyone is telling me this, but I don't know. I think Ryan Blaney has an amazing radio voice too. I've told him that, but
he does.
Neither here nor there. But I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. And God says move, you have to move.
You do.
And I only thought of this podcast touching down in the U.S., but it's touching down in South America, over in different countries, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and I mean, India. It's like, never saw it coming. But anyway, but I can, saying all of that, pushing it back to you and you writing the song and you being called up there to perform for the victims of that community.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just, I don't know if you asked for all of that, but
definitely not. I wanted it to maybe give them some comfort, maybe offer them some peace. I didn't even fathom that it would lead to me getting in my little Ford Escape and drive all the way up there with my mom and my bass player. We drove all the way to Connecticut. We had thought about flying, and I was like, you know what? I want to drive. I want to drive there. I want to stop and experience this whole thing. And I was lucky enough. I was doing school online since I was touring, and my bass player, Joe Kempin, I love Joe so much. I miss him so much. But we jumped in the car, and we drove through New York City. We drove through a small part of Rhode Island, which is funny because now I met somebody from it. Warren!
Oh my gosh, you're going to start saying that now.
I am. I do that when he gets home, like a golden retriever. Every time he gets home from work, I'm like,
Warren!
I just run and jump.
Do you say it just like that?
No, usually I'm just like, baby!
Oh, okay.
Sometimes Warren, that's your thing for him. Sometimes I do. I feel like I only call him like Warren when he's bad. Like when he's like done something like did you leave the fridge open? Did you like let the dog out and not tell me? What are you doing?
It's funny
because the water truck on again.
It's funny because I was thinking, he has two people saying Warren, like everywhere Warren, and it's funny because when you call him Donnie,
I do call him Donnie too. Yeah.
Well, he introduced himself to me as Warren.
Yeah.
And so I forget that a lot of more people call him Donnie.
They do now. Yeah.
But I only knew him as Warren. I liked Warren, I guess. And when you say, yeah, Donnie and I was like, who the flip is Donnie?
I know, because like I get confused because he introduced me. Well, you were there when he kind of like was like, oh, hey, it's like, do you have Snapchat? And I was like, yeah, here's my Snapchat.
Oh my gosh, I did the same thing.
Yeah,
I was like, are you on Instagram?
But you were so brave about it, and he was just so like cute in the background. And Ryan Bell was like, you know, you're gonna marry that guy, right? I was like, what? No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my
Warren,
God, I knew that
I
day. I knew it. But he was so cute, and he's like, I'm Warren, whatever. So like, but then all the guys, he's like, we hung out again, and he introduced himself to my parents as Donnie, and I was like, what? You're throwing this all off. Like, what do you want me to call you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Oh my goodness.
I have 2 boyfriends in one. No,
oh my gosh. It's
He's
crazy.
the greatest. He's the greatest, man.
Yeah.
I adore him.
Yeah, you are, Warren. Anyway, driving through and I mean, just driving all the way up there. I mean, God, again, he added a star to your crown. That's why he's been blessing you. I mean, he's blessed you from the beginning of this. He's allowed you to see some things early.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And oh my gosh, man. And it was all purpose in that. And I mean, just gosh, looking at you now and what's coming ahead, what's in the future. I mean, it's just, yeah. When you do stuff for God, I mean, what you do for Christ will last. That's Bible, okay?
Yes,
and
so true.
And he'll bless you for that, and that's what he's been doing.
He will.
But anyway, always.
Always.
What are some of your other passions outside of music? I mean,
oh, wow.
Listen, we've often talked about your farm and your rescue.
Yeah.
You know, and I've told you about my pet rabbit, Layla. I'm a huge animal lover too. I have a slight fear for horses, but I'm gonna break out of it.
We'll get you through that. Yeah.
But I want you to talk about all of that. Like, I mean, other passions outside of music, but I feel like that's like your biggest passion.
My big thing.
When you're not making music, when you're not coming over to Team Binsky and recording a podcast or at a racetrack, you're on the farm, you're taking care of your animals, and you always seem to be adding to your family. And I'm like, every week you're like, hey, Keisha,
I got
Donnie,
another horse.
Warren and I, we added, you know, such and such. Just like, goodness grief, girl. Like, how it's great. I love it though.
Well, they always tell you too, like, you always see like my husband won't let me get any more animals, da-da-da. And then there's Warren, and he's like, babe, like, I was like, do you want to get this horse? Like, I want to save him. Like, he's in Moxville. And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, like, let's go get the, so Ryan Newman, shout out, I love you. He lets me use his horse trailer. So I go pick up Ryan's trailer whenever. He's awesome. Like, yeah, go get the trailer, get another horse, whatever. So 6 a.m. on Warren's off day, it was raining. We went and saved this horse, Willie, from this farm in Moxville. He's 30 years old. He's, struggling, was losing weight.
Yeah.
And he is the first person to jump in and be like, we will save this animal. He will be there to like love on them with me. But saving animals has always been a passion of mine. I love animals. I grew up barrel racing, grew up with my horse. She was my best friend. And so I started a barn during COVID, kind of a training and boarding facility, which did not work out. I had some not so great people show me the downside of sometimes having a big heart and trying to help people too much can sometimes not lead you in the greatest situation. So I prayed about that, and I was renting a house and renting a barn, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to have somewhere that can be home that I can also save animals and rescue instead of boarding and training. Like, so I got my little farm, and we've got 6 horses, a cow, 2 goats, a sheep, a donkey, chickens. We have Aussie golden puppies at the house right now. We have cats. We've got a little bit of everything.
No rabbits?
No rabbits.
Get you some rabbits.
I had a rabbit. Her name was Daisy.
Oh.
And my adopted niece, my best friend Lexi, her daughter Liv, loved Daisy. And Daisy I wasn't home that much. And I asked Lexi, I was like, I think I want to give Daisy to Liv. And I was like, Liv, do you want to take Daisy home? And she starts bawling. She's like, I get to take her home. Aunt Nene, oh my goodness. So I have a rabbit still technically, but she lives with Lexi and Liv, and she's her bunny. So, but Layla's my niece bunny. You got to bring her over.
Definitely doing that. Mm-hmm. Definitely planning to do that. She loves the great outdoors. She's a house rabbit, but I take her out.
Oh, she can come bond, hang out, meet some chickens, meet the cow.
Yeah.
Meet her cousin, Miss Moo.
I want to meet Miss Moo.
Gotta meet Miss Moo.
Anyway.
She's Warren's cow. She loves him. She is not my cow. She loves me too, but that, I don't know if he knew when he signed up to Love Me Forever that he was going to end up with a cow that also would love him forever, but
I've seen some
That's where we're
Snapchats
at.
of her.
Miss Moo.
Oh man,
She's the best. So that's my main hobby other than music. I'm also a giant book nerd, as you saw. Oh, there's so many. He keeps like, babe, do you need to keep all these? Let's throw some in the dumpster. We got a dumpster.
No, what the flip?
I know. I was like, no, we don't throw away. He has the man. He owns one book, and I think he ordered it because he knows how many books I have. He hasn't read it yet. I told him I'd read them to him. Books are important. Writing's important. I'm the biggest book advocate. Dolly Parton and her Imagination Library, like that's my goal, is to be able to do something like that. Books are so important. They inspire you.
They do.
I have so many. If you need to check out a book, come to Sydney's Librarian Farm. I have it all. You can check out a cow and a book.
Take you up on that offer now. When I get my first home one of these days, having a library is a dream of mine. A library and a home gym and all that stuff. And even maybe a small farm as well. But I need to get better acquainted with being on a farm because I mean I grew up in the country, okay, but I didn't grow up on a farm. Course, but I gotta learn a little bit more, but definitely some rabbits and stuff like that running around.
A little bunny farm. You could have a little baby bunny farm. That'd be so Keystone. That'd be so pure.
Not so Keystone. I love it.
Love it.
Oh my goodness! Like I love playing Sims.
I used to love Sims. I'm probably gonna get it again now that I have my computer up and running.
And they have like a farm pack. And it's like, like Sims 3 they had that, but Sims 4, they make you pay for a lot of other extra stuff. I don't think you should, but they come out with packs, and you have different packs. Like they have a Star Wars pack, and then they have a family adventure pack or whatever, but they just came out with a horseback farm pack, but they have farm, like you can build it.
I'm about to get on Amazon right now and order me
Sims 4, and then, but you can obviously start a farm. You can have pets, dogs, cats, whatever. And I'm always having a plethora of animals. You can actually become a veterinarian. Like that's a career. Like you have your own vet. That was my goal
before music. I love it.
Yeah, you can have your own vet, like run it as a business and have one in your home. So I mean, it's oh gosh, I love that game. But anyway,
it's so fun. It gives you an ability to like dream up a life, and then you see it. Like, I know it's like a game, and people make fun like, oh, it's a video game, but like when I was younger, like I loved playing games like that because it's like you're manifesting, like you're praying about it and you're building it in a realm that you can build it, and then that's your inspiration to build it in real life, and you just keep like, at least in my opinion. Yeah.
And it can be used for educational purposes too, because architects, who are creating blueprints and stuff like that.
Design, all kinds of stuff.
I have a friend, she went to school for that, and I was showing her Sims 4, and she's like, wow, I wish I would have used this in college, because it's like you can literally 3D render a house or a whatever, a skyscraper or something. You can build just about anything in Sims. It's amazing, and it's high quality and everything. But so I'm always ending up on the farm or creating like a little small farm or whatever.
I love it.
Opening up a vet or whatnot.
So cool.
Wouldn't mind having some extra land for a few farm animals here and there.
Gotta come out this way, I'm like right up the road in Penske.
Yeah, most certainly.
We'll have a big family compound. We'll buy like 500 acres. It'll be all our little houses out there.
That would be
start a little village. That's my goal.
That would be so cool. That would be so cool. It's like you say start a village. Reminds me of Milton Hershey when he created Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
When he built his factory and created the whole town.
Yeah.
Schools and houses for his employees and things like that.
It's amazing. Talk about letting God work through you and doing good things. Like that's amazing. That's what we're all here for.
And then having faith in your vision and your goal. I mean, he spent over millions of dollars before he even knew how to create milk chocolate.
Yep.
And it's wild. But anyway, Songbird Stables, is that still the name of it? Or
so it's actually Rustic Sage Farms now. We did a little rebranding.
Okay.
And I just thought that fit a little bit better. My uncle helped me come up with it.
Okay.
And sage, so I have a Native American blood in me. And so sage is like the peace that you burn sage for peace and like clarity and stuff. And that's kind of a part of me. But I don't know, like we thought it was cute. Yeah, we rebranded. Warren kind of made us a cute little logo. He was getting these leather hats made, so we'll have to get you a hat. They're pretty cute.
Yeah,
he's jumping into the farm life. I love it.
I'll invest into the brand.
Yay,
I'll pay for one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're a Yankee, Warren. I love it. Moving on down here in the country.
Growing corn.
Yeah, I love it. I'm sorry. I'm slightly a Yankee. I grew up in Virginia, so that's like middle Atlantic. It's we get a little bit of the North and the South, so. Anyway, yeah.
You're a half Yankee. It's okay.
Half Yankee.
Yeah,
half
it's
Yankee,
fine.
half country, right?
Yeah, it's perfect. Best of both worlds. As Hannah Montana would say. You'll always be.
All right, don't get me started. I loved Hannah Montana. Did you say Hannah Montana?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Miley
loved Hannah
Cyrus. She was
Montana.
great.
I had the wig in 3rd grade. I kept trying to tell everyone I was the real Hannah Montana. Miley was my stand-in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, God, I lied, but.
Yeah, Miley, you know she's right. Goodness grief. So working on the farm, being around farm animals, that being pretty much your piece, does that have any ties to like your music or anything?
Oh, 100%.
Like that? Like,
it's my therapy. I'll go out and sit on the hill, and it's funny. So horses, my favorite thing about horses, which I didn't know that I had my heart condition until like the last 10 years. I was just diagnosed with what I have about a year ago. But horses, when you're around them, horses' heart rates are naturally in like the lower end of where ours is. So if we're anxious when we're with a horse, they can feel that, and our hearts will literally regulate to where theirs are.
Yeah.
And so, like, in a health perspective, all I got to do when my heart's high and I'm not feeling good is go hug a pony, and I'll feel my body just, like, be in sync with them.
Wow.
So I'll take my guitar out, and I'll go sit on the hill where my favorite horse, Chief, is buried. Rest his soul. But I'll go out there, and they'll all just kind of start migrating up the hill. And, like, before I know it, they're laying down, they're grazing, and they just create a circle around me. And horses will circle, like, what they protect, like, in the herd. If they have an older horse or a younger horse, they circle it to protect it.
Yeah.
And so it, like, just makes me, like, chills. I'll go out there with my guitar, and they'll just form a little circle around me, and they're all out there. And it allows me to open my soul up and not think about, like, worldly things and, like, the pressure of, like, this is totally random and off topic, but I've gotten into, like, watching these, like, get ready with me videos on TikTok, and, like, these girls have, like, the perfect nails and the Louis Vuitton bags and the BMW, like, all these things that it's, like, they're showcasing that as being, you made it.
Yeah.
I think my version of making it and, like, pulling, like, who you're supposed to be at is just, like, letting go of all those things, material, and, like, it's so hard in this world to be that way, and being with my ponies and, like, just being around them, like, they don't care if I'm wearing Lululemon leggings or if I'm wearing $10 ones off Amazon. Like, they see my heart, and by them seeing my heart allows me to see my heart. And so I'll just let everything go out there, take a glass of wine or some tea, and just sit out there and just let my heart be loud and clear, whatever that means. I write stream of consciousness, whatever comes out of my head, I write and turn it into something. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just go out there and just let God speak to me and give me clarity on who I am and what he wants to see out of my life and what he wants me to do, what he's calling me to do. And it's so easy to get stuck in your own mind, but you just got to let yourself kind of zen out, and they're my therapy. They're my babies.
Yeah, no, and it's good to find something like that that's positive too. Yeah. You know, you can go into like a whole meditative state, and like like with my rabbit, I mean, they're very peaceful, and they can be peaceful animals, but Layla's very peaceful. Like if something's going on or a bad practice or a bad race, whatever, I come and Layla, I mean, she doesn't know. You know, it's like kids, like when they're little kids, like they don't know you had a good day, a bad day, but they're just a bundle of joy.
You. Yep.
Right, and it just cheers you up, and it gives you a peace of mind. So that's beautiful. That's very beautiful. And any songs that are published that or maybe coming out that you've written from just sitting out on the front porch or being in that farm, you know, around the animals and stuff like that? Anything?
We got a couple. So I'm actually going to Nashville. I fly out Wednesday to start working on the record, and then we fly out in August. I'll be out there for like 2 weeks recording the record and starting it. We are aiming to release it.
You don't have to tell us anything because I know it's like until it comes out.
Oh,
but
no,
it's
okay. Yeah.
You know.
So there's a couple songs that I've written just about like my heart and like what, like I can't release track titles yet, but just songs that are just me that my producer, I've got a couple people that I work with in Nashville. Jamie Tate is one of my favorite people in the industry, and he's encouraged me for the last couple of years to like let go of everything that the industry's told you to be and write from your heart. Write what is you. Don't put any, you know, boxes around it. Don't listen to the radio. Like listen to what you want to say and pretend no one has ever made a record ever. You're making the first record ever. What does that record sound like? Like no one's been brave enough to make country music. You're making the first country record. What's it sound like? And it puts me in a perspective of like, okay, like I don't listen to anything else. What would I want it to sound like? What would I want to say? What would I want to be vulnerable about? What would I be honest about? So I'm trying really hard to like encapsulate that in my record and write about what's real and what I'm going through, and how before I signed my deal with Harrison's, like, you know, they have blessed me so much to be able to do my record and to tour, and have been like my second family in helping me build this journey. Kevin Harrison, and Danny Harrison. They're amazing. But he's like, we want to be the wind in your sail. And that was so just crazy to have that experience and have that backing. But just the fact that I'm allowed to be myself and create what's real and be in a space where, like, 6 months ago, I could barely afford to buy a latte. Like, I could pay for my horse food and my mortgage, and that was it. Like, I didn't, I was freaking out on how I was going to keep making this work after walking away from a bigger deal. No one really talks about that side of being an artist, and you don't always have what you need, but when you let God just speak through you and be real, like, you just got to let that happen. And it's kind of where I'm at. It's all surreal, but yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, there's a few more Sydney songs, I think, that are coming.
I love it. I can't wait for it.
Thank you.
You may have mentioned this too, and I'm going to try to cover everything as much as possible. Take me through how you began following Christ. Did you mention that? I don't know if you mentioned that earlier.
I didn't. No. So I grew up in a Catholic household. My grandma was Italian Catholic. My family was. I went to Catholic school kind of growing up. And I honestly, I know a lot of people have a moment where they feel like they found Jesus. And that's so beautiful. I've witnessed that happen a few times. And it is the most beautiful thing to see. And I just feel like I don't think I ever really had that moment. I feel like I was born into my mom having that and my grandma having that. And, like, I grew up not really having a lot of friends. So I talked to God. I talked to Jesus. I talked to my horse. That was it. That was who knew my heart. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a little jealous that I never had that, like, big, being saved moment, because I've seen that happen, and it is the most beautiful thing in the world to witness. But I think my mom was so close to him and is so close to him, and my grandma is so close to him that that was all I knew. That was all I knew, was that when the world is hard and you don't know where you're going, God's got you and Jesus has you. And I'd go light a candle at my church. Like, we had a big candle thing when you needed somebody to pray for you and you didn't, want to talk about it, but you needed a prayer. You'd go light a candle for that person or that thing or whatever. And I grew up in a very, like, old school Catholic church with the stained glass windows, and it was Christ on the cross with his arms open instead of the crucifix. So it always felt welcoming, and like you could feel Jesus in that church with you. And that's where I was lucky enough to go to school for a few years when I wasn't super sick. And so that Jesus has always been my guiding light. Like, I've just always felt so close to him. And I'm so grateful to have that. My religious faith, like, I kind of got away from the Catholic faith a little bit just because there were things that I didn't really, I didn't research. I was born into it, so I wanted to give myself time to really study it and study the word and study more than what I'd just grown up with. And I just feel like my relationship with God, I feel God so closely when I'm standing out with my horses, or when I'm standing by the ocean, or when I look up in the sky at night. Like, there's so much. I've always had that blind faith, and I can't really explain, like, a moment on when it started. I think it's just always been who I am and in my heart. Now,
you've been hinting on it throughout this whole session about, your battle with your illness and things of that nature. Yeah. And in 2006, I came down with the illness of my own that left me in the hospital, I want to say, for about a month. Mm-hmm. I think they were saying it was low-grade meningitis. Wasn't sure. Back in those days, I was in the Cub Scouts, and I guess I got bit by a mosquito. And, it was the worst headache ever. Yeah. Just imagine your whole head hurting, and it wouldn't go away, like a never-ending headache. And, young at that time. And, again, growing up in a family that worshiped God and came up in the church, so I knew Christ. Wasn't like I was trying to figure that out either, but I knew him. But still, I was trying to come into what Christ really had for me, and really getting to know him for myself. I can listen to mom and dad in the past all I want, but you have to gain an understanding for yourself. And at that time, I'm like, man, wow, why God? Why? Why am I getting sick? I'm young, and I didn't get that. But over time, I use it as a testimony. Yeah. Right. People say, on my sick bed, while I was on he's a doctor in the hospital, and so a lawyer in the courtroom. So talk a little bit about, I guess, your illness. You don't have to go into much in depth with it. It's more of like, has that been, obviously, we're believers, and we've been talking about how God has brought us through, and how he has shown his face to us, and how he's been just moving in our lives throughout this whole session. We've talked about that, but is there a testimony that comes out of this? We talked one time in Panera, and you may not have mentioned it there, but recently you conquered something. You conquered, right?
Yeah.
Within this illness. You don't have to verbatim tell me what you told me then, but I just want the people to just hear this testimony coming out of this illness. And again, you probably have millions of testimonies, million little miracles and stuff from him, but I just want the world to know. I mean, because God, listen, guys, God is so good. I mean, and He works miracles every day. I mean, just you waking up is a miracle.
It is.
But I just okay, Keiston, shut up. Go ahead.
So I went through a lot last year. There was a lot going on with my health, getting out of a relationship that was not the right thing for me, realizing that you can't stay in a situation where you're beat down mentally, and when you're dealing with health issues, that's already a battle in and of itself, and you have to surround yourself with people that love you and will protect you. Long story short, I was diagnosed with WPW, which is called Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome. And basically it's where you have an extra electrical channel in your heart that causes your heart my heart will go from like 225 to 40 within a span of minutes. And they don't really, there's really no cure for it. It's more like it's treated with medication. And during that whole time, I went to the ER for my heart, and I had some blood work come back a little questionable. And long story with all that, but they thought that I had leukemia for a little while. And I remember I told you that in Panera because I was terrified, and I was like, I need to talk to my body because I'm scared and I needed prayers. And I had my checkup and had blood work redone, and all my numbers were back to being normal. And that's God. That is God. It's been really hard. There was a day a couple of years ago where I was sitting in my car and I was really sick. I'd just gotten out of the hospital, I think the day before that, and it was raining, and I felt sick and I couldn't do anything. And so I was angry at myself because I couldn't make myself want to get up and go right. I was struggling to take care of my horses, and I had people that were helping me at my barn that were like, well, you're just lazy. This was before technically my diagnosis. You're just lazy. You just need to work harder. An old manager I worked with, your work ethic is questionable. I was sick, and people wouldn't believe me or listen to me. And I broke down crying in my car, and I was like, God, what do you have for me? Because right now, like, I'm questioning you. I'm questioning, if you're out there, like, I know that that's completely stupid and I shouldn't be questioning that, but why would you get me here to only get me here? Like, what is going on here? I don't understand. Like, I'm hurting physically, mentally. I'm not okay. I'll bring Warren back into this. We were best friends for a long time, very close. Our little story, but I think I always knew that I loved him and didn't give myself a chance to explore that because I didn't feel like I deserved to be loved the way that he loved me. So sitting in my car that day, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about all these things. And it's the only time I've heard God's voice completely clear in my head. Completely. Like I know where God wants me, but it's the only time I've ever heard him like he was sitting in the car next to me. And I was like, God, I don't know what to do. I can't, I'm trying to write, but I'm sick. I want to sleep all the time because I'm physically in pain. I don't know what to do. And through all that, like all the crazy in my head, I just heard, stop. Your job is to love. That's all I heard. And I know that is through my music. I know that I see, a lot of people in Nashville, oh, you want to sell out stadiums. Like, yeah, you make so much money doing that. Yeah, probably. The reason I want to sell out stadiums is to get 75,000 people in that room that I can love and show them Jesus and show them, like, you are not alone. You are capable. You have every ability to do what you're called to do, and just love them. Just be their big sister for a little bit and just love on them. And through that, I feel like my illness, like, I was sick my whole childhood. I spent a lot of time in University of Iowa Children's Hospital and Creighton and Mayo, and they didn't know it was wrong because my heart condition was so rare that I was told that I didn't have it by a lot of cardiologists. I've been to 12 different cardiologists, Vanderbilt, St. Thomas in Nashville, Wake Forest. Like, I've been to so many, and I knew what I had. I'd researched it. I had an EMT and an ambulance tell me that he was pretty sure I had WPW. I had countless doctors tell me, oh, you just have anxiety. Oh, you're just a worked up teenage girl. I had some guy in an ER like, are you on heroin? No, I'm an 18-year-old girl with a heart issue. I'd been told all these things, and I was like, God, I need a diagnosis. I need to know what I'm facing. I was diagnosed with WPW almost a year ago now, and it's crazy how once I got that answer on a completely different side from my music, I was like, okay, now that I know what that is, God's going to use me for this. He's going to use me I want to team up with the American Heart Association. I've talked to one of the ladies in Nashville with them about spreading research about it. There's other kids that I know that they're going through this, adults, people that are facing anything. it's so hard to chase a dream when you're facing something big like that, but God will never give you more than you can handle. And I know that's hard to see in the moment, but having health issues has been such a blessing to me because it's shown me just how much I can physically take. And in the industry that I'm going into, mentally, you got to buck up. You got to figure it out. You got to get back on the horse and handle it. And I think having that issue and overcoming that and seeing what God has done in that has given me faith to keep going in every aspect. Are you crying over there, Keith?
No, I mean, maybe a little, but I mean, I'm not being dramatic. I'm just listening to God through you, because I mean, again, it just confirms so many things. I mean, I know I keep talking about NASCAR and then me getting fired, but I mean, it just, when look at that little birdie outside.
Bird. My ADHD kicked in.
That's
He's
okay.
so cute.
We're next to a window, guys.
Hey,
Sorry.
bird. I'm Cinderella. I'm just kidding.
He just
ate that cricket, so that's not good for the cricket. But anyways,
we're such lovers of animals.
We
but
are.
Talking about getting fired and how you said, when you were diagnosed and you finally got that answer. Well, for one, listen. When the doctor says no, Jesus says yes.
Yes.
When the doctors don't know, Dr. Jesus knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just confirmed that.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness grief, just as clear as day.
Mm-hmm.
For the ones out there that may not even believe, that may just happen to tune into this whole broadcast. I mean, gosh, man, God, he'll give you answers, especially when you rest in him and
Exactly.
you taking that time to just sit and at least ask and just, I mean, that's resting in him, waiting on an answer, being patient, but also saying, okay, I'm diagnosed with such and such. God, how can you use me through this? Or like, how can I be a blessing to someone else and help someone else? That's amazing, because even through like me getting fired or being suspended again, I did the same thing, because I'm like, you were like, well, you were questioning him. You were like, well, Flip, like, are you even there? Like, what? You brought me this far.
Yeah.
To allow this to happen?
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't get it. It's not adding up, but it's a bigger picture that we don't see that he has. And just listening to you and how you have allowed God to use you even through the rough times and in the good times. I mean, I was quiet over here because it was just like, wow,
Thank you.
Anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the end of this deal here. I just want to talk to you all day, which I know I could, but
we can go get a drink after this.
Yeah.
Starbucks is open till 10.
Oh my gosh, yes, and they serve tea. I love tea.
They do. They have good tea. They
Yes.
teamed up with Tivana. Ugh.
Gosh, but I hated that they kind of teamed up with Tivana, because
miss
Tivana.
Tivana.
You've been to Tivana?
Yes, I just threw away I had like the rock sugar. Do you know what I'm talking
Yes!
about? Yes, I found it in a bag. It's
the beet
awful.
sugar.
Yes. Oh, so good. Where you could just buy like the bulk tea. Oh my gosh.
You have the brewer, like the one you set on top of the cup. And
yes,
you
with the little thing. Yes.
Yes, we had one at my university. We had one on campus.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Flip.
They had some like I don't remember what it was. I can still is it weird how you remember a taste, but you can like kind of taste it? Is that stupid? But like this tea, it was like a pink like passion fruit. I don't know what it was, but I think
I know what you're talking about. It was so good, because we had purchased
so
it. Me, my dad, my mom. We had purchased some of it. I forget what you call it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And I still have some. Like I have it preserved.
Really?
It's like an artifact, but I still use it. But you can't order loose leaf tea online. But it's just not Tivana.
Tivana was so good. Starbucks ruined it.
Okay, I'll ask the cliche question. What is Sydney doing nowadays? Like what? Like you mentioned, you have a tour coming. You're getting ready to fly out to Nashville, record an album. I mean, just achieving great goals and everything. Keeping God first. I love hearing it, and I love hearing your testimony and how you've used your illness to be a blessing to this world. And it's kept me encouraged. And so thank you for that. I love it. I was kind of speechless. You kind of witnessed me trying to put my words together, because it's just like, oh my flipping gosh. Like, yeah, God's speaking through you, and I love it, through your music and through your everything you're doing. So anyway, it's a blessing to be connected with you. It really is.
You're a blessing. I'm so glad our paths crossed. We were meant to be friends. God made it happen.
Yes. But anyway, what is Sydney doing now? Like tour dates, tours, everything. Just walk me through it.
Gosh, so right now we're focused on the record, so I still have to write a few songs for that. So we're aiming for like October 8th is my birthday, and we're also aiming for like the record release to be that weekend. So Roval weekend, if you're race fans, Charlotte. That's what we're aiming for right now. So everything, my entire focus right now is all on the record. I do have some shows coming up. I'm doing the 29th of this month. So that's next Saturday? I'll be at the Winston-Salem Harrison store. We're going to do a little meet and greet, and I'll be, performing there in North Carolina. But we're not playing a ton of shows right now. I'm just trying to focus on writing and taking shows that make sense. And we're putting a tour together for next year. We're in the early stages of that and figuring out where we want to go and what makes sense. And we have a couple team meetings coming up to solidify those dates and everything. But so that's where we're at right now. We're getting ready to put the record out, and I want to make sure it's the best thing that I can possibly. I've got 3 months almost to keep working on it, but I want to make sure it's perfect when I put it out. So that's where all my focus is right now, and to get my ponies to stop breaking fences. That's also on the agenda. But
awesome. I can't wait to see what the good Lord is going to do through your music.
Thank you, Keith.
And through your album. Yeah, no problem at all. So social media, where can people find you?
Yes, I'm at Sydney Lett on Twitter, Instagram. I'm on Threads now. I don't know what that is, but we're figuring it out.
It's like an Instagram thing, right?
It's like a Twitter, Instagram
I feel like we're old because it's like...
Yeah, I feel old. TikTok.
I talk to people and they're like, I'm like, do you have Facebook? And they're like, 21. 20.
Yeah, people don't have Facebook
and
anymore.
They're like, that's for old people. I'm like, old people?
I'm like, I want to scroll. What? I want to see what my friend from high school ate for dinner. Like, stop. Don't take that from us.
Oh my gosh. But anyway.
No, TikTok. Yep. I'm just at Sydney Lett on everything. SydneyLett.com is my website, but we're kind of rebranding that. We're getting ready to redo that. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome.
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
You have your website. You mentioned that. Yeah, all that. Well, that's cool. We'll definitely be keeping up with you. Sydney Lett, everybody. Thanks for stopping by and talking about your amazing life and how God's been a blessing in your life and how he's been using you. Take heed to that, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Bible 360 podcast. That's right. I'm your host, Keyston Francis. Always Sydney Lett. Oh, Rocky Top will always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee.
I love you, Keyston.
I love you more. I love you guys too. Later.